Patience is the key. An elated Kartik Kansal says to PBNS in an exclusive interview. Who is Kartik? An ISRO scientist who secured 271st rank in UPSC 2021. 25-year-old Kartik Kansal broke his own record to better himself and land his goal after years of hard work and grit, a character trait he gets from his mother, Mamta Gupta. Kartik passed the 2021 UPSC examinations with flying colors and proved to the world that you need not be physically but mentally strong to achieve your goals. At age 8, Kartik was detected with muscular dystrophy, a progressive disorder where gradually your limbs stop functioning. He has been on the wheelchair for 14 years. However, his story is not defined by physical limitations but by the success he has achieved. After 4 attempts, 3 interviews and 2 final selections, Kartik has cracked one of the toughest exams on the planet. Let's hear from Kartik himself about the drive that kept him going through all the odds.
See, for me, the motivation for civil service comes from my physical disability. That I'm a wheelchair-bound person and I have muscular dystrophy. So, what I believe is that if a person who is wheelchair-bound, he goes into a position where the public he is very visible in the public. So that sort of creates a positive attitude towards people with disability. And I have personally felt throughout my life that at times the society does discriminate. My basic motive was this, that even though I am in ISRO, but the public interaction is not much. So this sort of attitude, the mentality, it can't be changed. So that was one of the reasons for me going to civil services.
The IIT Roorkee graduate believes now is the time that highly needs a change in perception, and a person with disability shall be treated with dignity and as equals. Accessibility for all is another area that Kartik Kansal wishes to work on specifically.
One of the major reforms that I would be thinking about would be the accessibility part. That right now, when I was growing up I come from a small town, so there even the hospitals are not accessible to person with disability. So if this sort of condition is there, then I felt that there is definitely a need of reforming. And secondly, the mentality part, as I said, that also needs to be changed. Then thirdly, there are also certain provisions which do kind of restrict us in some sense. For instance, there are certain jobs in which the physical requirements are quite, they can be changed, because I feel that the people who do suffer from these kind of conditions, they themselves need to be there in the policy making, so that a good policy can be made. So every stakeholder is involved. Regarding accessibility, there are certain points that accessibility does provide. For instance, one is the self confidence, because if a person is able to access each and everything on his own independently, then that definitely gives a big boost to his self confidence. And secondly, the services that they do need. So if they are able to access them, then definitely they would feel a lot empowered, and they would themselves feel that they also have a particular dignity, and the level of equality would be maintained. For instance, to tell you one instance, there was a particular restaurant that I wanted to go, and I was about to give party to my friends, like it was in the college days. So when I went there, the accessibility was not there. So the manager over there and the other people, they said that no issue, will lift you up and then we'll take you. So, but I personally felt that that is quite wrong, because see, the person who has made the restaurant, he has not thought of a person with disability as his customer. He has not thought that he could be a potential customer. So that sort of mentality needs to go. And for that, if accessibility does come in, then definitely a major change would be there.
One of the ways to work on accessibility is dialogue. The other that Kartik believes is through policy creation and awareness.
You see, two things are there. One is more dialogue, definitely it is required with all the stakeholders. Then, secondly, is the concept of universal accessibility. That if we are making a particular institution or a place universally accessible to everyone, I mean, it doesn't only have to be people with disability. It can be to anyone, say women, say people who are having mental disabilities. So, universal accessibility, if it is there, then definitely the chances of improvement are much more higher. With every new day comes new challenges, and so this is just the beginning. And more reforms need to be made, and for that, a lot of efforts need to be put in.
A person who loves outdoor activities and traveling, but he has a special gratitude for his mother, who, despite the social pressures, didn't give up on her child and provided the best to him.
My mother has supported me a lot. Like she came to know that I am having this disease when I was 8 years old, and for her at that time it was a very difficult phase. And in our society, many people are there such that they used to tell her that what is the benefit of getting him a good education, because they feel that it is just a waste of time, and they didn't believe in what can be achieved or what cannot be. But she was determined. Like she wanted me to have the best of education, and she took me she because my father is in the revenue department, so he was quite busy in his job. So my mother used to take me to school, and then later on to local tuition classes. So like that way, she I mean, whatever I am today, I'm a product of that only, because if she wouldn't have taken me to those places, I wouldn't be here.
And to all the UPSC aspirants eagerly waiting for some tips, Kartik says patience is the key. Writing by practice is another habit one must inculcate. He talks about his strategy, choosing the optionals, and more.
Regarding the preparation, I personally felt that it is more like a marathon and not like a sprint. Like you can't do it in a particular time, but if you devote yourself and be patient enough and consistently giving your efforts, then definitely the exam is tough, but you can, be in a position to get a good rank in the exam. So that is just the key, that patience and being consistent. Whenever we are giving the exam, we do have a lot of fact and a lot of data. But what we don't have is the presentation skill. And the examiner who is checking the exam, our copy, then he would definitely understand only from our answer sheet that what we know or what we don't know. So writing is definitely the most critical part in the exam, and for that we do need practice, because everybody knows that practice makes everyone perfect. So and especially once you give the prelim exam, at that stage you are having a lot of knowledge. So in the mains exam, if you practice upon that knowledge and do add some value addition to your notes, for instance adding some facts and some figures to make the answer look attractive, so that is definitely required. And personally, for me, this time when I gave the exam, after the prelims was over, I used to practice one test a day. And that was my basic strategy. Choosing the option, many people do one mistake, that they start following the topper's option at what they chose, so they would also choose. But that must not be the case, because it should definitely go on the basis of your attraction toward a particular subject, and secondly, your educational background also. And thirdly, would be how you can maximize your resources so that you give adequate time to optional as well as general studies. So in my case, what I did was that I had a engineering background. So I thought that it is better to, revise my engineering subject and practice upon it rather than choosing a new subject.
The ISRO scientist turned IAS, Kartik, also has a word of gratitude for the government support and the change in attitude it has brought.
The first fundamental change is the attitude shift that is happening. See, the earlier phrase was quite demeaning. That is, they were used to be called Viklang. and that phrase has been changed. And so there is a definite shift towards more positive mentality. That is the first requirement for any person to live with dignity. So that is definitely there. Then secondly, with the coming of the Person with Disability Act in 2016, there have been many positive changes. For instance, the policy of affirmative action that has been expanded, and more number of problems have been included in benchmark disability. That is also a benefit. Then there is the Accessible India campaign as well, which has provided a lot of accessibility. And nowadays we are seeing that even in the public infrastructure, public transport facilities. So the change is definitely there. The thing is that we need to keep pressing for more and more reforms, because ultimately the social stigma that is associated with disability, that needs to go. Because other than the social limitation, the mental limitation, if we are able to come out of the mental limitation, then there is nothing that can't be achieved.
And before I leave, here is a message from IAS Kartik Kansal for all, especially the persons with disability who are taking the world over, be it in sports, arts, and not just the UPSC exam.
The message would be that we need to follow our dreams, no matter what the society says about us, or because there are many people who would be pessimistic about what we are trying to achieve. But the person who himself is following his dream, he only knows the potential that the dream possesses. So if we dream big and follow upon it, then definitely wonders will happen. And that is the case that is there. So the pursuit of excellence that we say, that the determination to go for excellence needs to be there. That is the basic message.
Until next time, thank you for watching.